What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by my amazing amigo, Tom. Tom, how are you today, bro?
Well, I'm doing well, not as well as, when you're broadcasting straight from Aruba, but happy to be back. Hopefully, I'm looking a little bit more tan, and, UFC 277 was pretty good last night. Like I said, I tweeted about this a little earlier. I feel like a little bit gypped with the Derek Lewis early stoppage. I mean, he was moving his head on the ground there, and then he was getting up right before they stopped it. So, and I think Dan Miragliotta, once he saw the replay, he knew that he made a bad call. So feel a little bit gypped with that. Anthony Smith broke his ankle. I'm not sure if it was on an actual check or not, but I mean, at the end of the day, he did, get it broken on Magomed Ankalaev. So that's a win for him. But I would have loved to see that fight actually, go without anybody getting injured and see what would have happened. Because I did have a weird gut feeling about Anthony Smith, but that's the way she goes. And then on the undercard, I know we didn't get this video out there on time, but on the undercard, picked Drew Dober definitely to pick up a win. A couple other people not coming to mind right now, but very good for me necessarily. For my wallet. What about you, Keith?
Yeah, good for me as well. Had a couple parlays that hit, but yeah, I picked opposite of you. So you had Amanda Nunes and Brandon Moreno in the main and the co-main event. I picked opposite Cachoeira, and I picked Juliana Pena. Masterclass in working the body by Brandon Moreno last night. Juliana Pena missing chunks of her forehead. But yeah, we both had Pantoja, and then I actually picked Pavlovich, and I picked Ankalaev. So I guess you could say, I wouldn't say a fluke perhaps with those two. But yeah, lucky with that stoppage on my end. I definitely wasn't gypped over there. And then, shit happens. Sorry, Anthony Smith. Shit happens. That's all you could say about that one. Sometimes you break a leg, sometimes you just don't. Most of the time you don't. Hopefully you don't, unless your bones are made of like plastic or something. But Anthony Smith is way tougher than that. So, still a fan of both of those guys going forward. But yeah, glad I went 3-2 last night. Works out well for my overall record. And the wallet was not hit too badly. So we got this card coming up this weekend, headlined by Thiago Santos versus Jamahal Hill. Before we dive into that, please like this video. If you could give us a like, that really helps us out a lot, as well as subscribing. Subscribing to the channel helps us out immensely. We really appreciate all your support at home. And leave us a comment down below. If you're watching this live, we will respond to your comments. We bring them up on screen, and we love talking with you guys. So, if you want to talk with us as well, our Twitter handles are here. As well as all of our social stuff on the bottom. So after the episode is over, we'll interact with you on Twitter and, over on our Instagram page, all that good stuff. So let's jump into this card. We're going to start off like we always do with our prelim notables, prelim locks. There's one in particular that Tom and I were talking about beforehand. And, listen, it's Terrence McKinney. We all know Terrence McKinney. He's a dog. He's fighting Eric Gonzalez. This is like crazy big lock for us. You have to take this guy, except for the fact that he's minus 900 this week. So if you feel comfortable picking a method with which, you think Terrence McKinney is going to get it done, because he has shown that, he can get it done with his hands, and he can also tie up some pretty nasty submissions as well. But if you feel comfortable with one of those, the odds are really high the odds are still relatively low, the payout, but the chances are very high that Terrence McKinney is going to, in my opinion, knock out Eric Gonzalez. He's got really heavy hands. What do you think about that, Tom? You think it's going to be a knockout, submission, or?
Terrence McKinney went out there and he showed that he can, use the submission game and finish people on the ground too in his last bout out. I think he's going to return to his base and probably get the finish here. But that being said, not probably get the finish. I think that he's definitely going to get. Not definitely. Geez, if I could get the words out today. No, I think he's going to go out there. I think he's going to get a standing finish, a TKO finish. But with him, because he's so well versed and he's showing the improvement on that submission part of his game, I don't really feel super comfortable at this point picking a way other than finish. So I think he's a parlay piece. Sometimes when guys are minus 900 favorites. You're a little bit nervous about them living up to that. The simple fact here is that I'm with Terrence McKinney. I think he's going to win the fight, and I don't think that there's a high probability that he doesn't win the fight. So I'm okay adding that minus 900 into a potential parlay piece later on in the card.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. And just to correct you, I mean, not, to correct you, but to let the people know at home, actually, Drew Dober was Terrence McKinney's last fight.
Right.
That's what we really got to watch out for, because not only against Terrence McKinney, but against Rafael Alves last night, Drew Dober, I mean, that chin of his, like literally massive chin, is also a very durable chin too. So keep an eye out for Drew Dober going forward. So my other prelim notable, feeling pretty good about this one, is Brian Battle against Takashi Saito. Big fan of Brian Battle. He's like one of the only few Ultimate fighters that is proving himself in the UFC so far. Really big win against Tresean Gore. I hope it's not a Ricky Tercio situation, though, where Ricky looked really good in his UFC debut. I can't remember who he fought off the top of my head. But I hope it's not one of those things where, like, Brian Battle looked so good against Tresean Gore, and now he's going to fight a guy with actual UFC octagon experience in Saito and lose. But I still feel good about Brian Battle, and that's because of his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game. He's a really good grappler, plain and simple. And Saito is pretty mid, as the kids say, when it comes to the grappling. More of a stand-up guy, but Brian Battle can get it done on his feet as well. So I feel good about him there. He's a minus 250 favorite, but looking forward to seeing what those odds are for Brian Battle to win this one by submission. What do you think about that one, Tom?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Brian Battle, I watched him through the tough season. He's shown, an increased ability on the feet as well. So I'm really impressed with what he can do and what he's done most recently. So I'm picking Brian Battle to go with you here. My computer is kind of messing itself up here, I guess. It's frozen on my other screen. So Keith, I saw you take over the sticks. Appreciate it. So, I'm going to pass it back to you to talk about the women's fights at the bottom of the card. I think talk about the first one that you think. Tell me where it's going to go, what you're expecting.
Well, we do have our rule here on Pickin' Fights that we like to parlay women's fights to go the distance. And the prelim opener is Mayra Bueno Silva versus Stephanie Egger. I feel like this one has a good chance of going the distance. In part to, both of these women specialize in arm bars. It's something that Tom and I were talking about before. That does seem to be a go-to submission for a lot of women. It's pretty bread and butter for a lot of chicks out there. I'm a little bit skeptical about this one personally, and that's because Stephanie Egger did show that she does have pretty heavy hands, heavier hands than Bueno Silva. She knows how to strike. She gets in there and she's tough. And Bueno Silva does have a loss to Manon Fierro. And on the feet, not only do Stephanie Egger and Fierro look somewhat similar, but Stephanie Egger, I think, brings a similar style on her feet to the table in this fight. Not as good of a stand-up fighter as Fierro, but just similar styles in terms of the kickboxing. So I think that one has the potential to go the distance. Then we have Corey McKenna versus Miranda Granger. These women, 9 times out of 10, they're going to go the distance in a fight. So that's our rule. We're sticking to it this week. Prelim women's fights tend to go the distance. I'm assuming you're with me on that this week, right, Tom?
Yeah, no, I'm exactly right there with you. I'm going to start using my phone now. Hopefully it'll give my 8-year-old computer a little bit of a break. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm looking at Mayra Bueno Silva over Stephanie Egger. I'm not saying necessarily over, but I do think this is going to go over the 2.5 round expectancy that Vegas is probably going to set it at. Listen, when two fighters specialize in the same thing and not one particular area stands out as a particular area of strength, especially when it comes to women's MMA, I'm going to lean towards that one to go the distance. 9 times out of 10, or maybe 8 times out of 10, that's going to be true. So in this example, I still think it's going to ride with it. And if it doesn't work out, we went 2-0 last week, and I think we went 2-1 the week prior, or 1-1 the week prior. So I've been doing pretty well with that bet. And I don't think this is the area that I'm particularly concerned that it's not going to come through. And same thing with Corey McKenna and Miranda Granger, just a little bit more heavily. Both of these women haven't had a lot of finishes in their most recent bouts. Both of them coming off losses. Miranda Granger coming off 2 losses. Very similar builds, except that, well, no, not very similar build. Miranda Granger is a much longer opponent, 68-inch reach over a 58-inch reach. But neither of them have showed finishing ability, and I don't think Miranda Granger is going to have the power in her hands to put away Corey McKenna. I don't think either of them particularly have a lot of power, so I'm picking that one to go the distance as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like that one. So I have one that it's a notable. This is for sure a notable, but we have Smiling Sam Alvey on this card, and Sam Alvey is currently on a 7-fight losing streak. Sam Alvey, great guy. Love hearing him talk. He's he's an entertainer inside of the octagon, outside of the octagon. He shows toughness. He doesn't tap to submissions. That's why, he's pretty active usually. That's why we haven't seen him in a while, because in his last fight, I believe it was against Brendan Allen, got locked up in a rear naked choke, didn't tap, went to sleep. So he was offered a 6-month suspension. Sam Alvey, though, after 7 losses, it almost feels like he's due for a win. At plus 400, you sprinkle a little bit on him. I like the pick because I don't think he's actually going to win. But it's like statistics, if you took a high school statistics class, you have an idea. Or if you're just, you're a betting man like myself, sometimes it feels like somebody is due for a win. And this is one of those situations. And Sam Alvey has the potential to get it done this week. It's not even like he has the potential to get it done. I spoke too soon. It's just statistics. And every time Sam Alvey pops up and it's against someone who's a little bit lower tier, I like to sprinkle just a little bit on Sam Alvey because, how far can he really go? Like, it's almost like he's testing how much he can lose before the UFC is going to cut him. But he does try, he does entertain, and he's come pretty close in his last couple fights to some victories. But, yeah, call me crazy. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on Sam Alvey. How about you? Are you with me on that one? Sprinkling a little bit on Smiling Sam?
Yeah, if the odds keep going the way they're going, I think, like you said, he's like plus 400. I think technically statistics would say that, it's 50-50 every single time, but this is fighting. That's coin flipping. I think Sam Alvey at this point in his career definitely doesn't offer too many threats other than that he has this ability to withstand a lot of damage and keep, maybe through just blind repetition that his body is able to fight off an oncoming attacker while it's basically unconscious. Good on him. He's still always smiling. I think maybe Dana White having a personality and having a sense of humor kind of want to just keep Sam Alvey around just for the joke of it. And at the end of the day, Sam's probably a really good guy, and it doesn't hurt, to do that to a guy who is just really nice. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to call Sam Alvey to lose a lot because I feel like, he's got to be due. They got to be keeping around for something. And then maybe he wants to go out on a win and they're just going to keep throwing him out there until he gets it. Well, I'm not saying this is the absolute time where he does, but I know what you mean. It feels like it's got to be happening soon.
Yeah, I agree. And also, this is very funny from our friend Joe. He was on here a few pay-per-views ago. What's up, fellas? I'm starting to think Alvey has some dirt on Dana, so he keeps letting him get paid. There's a strong possibility that Sam Alvey does know where Dana White has his bodies buried. So, maybe we saw him out there in the Nevada desert hiding something. Who knows? I think both of them do live out there in Nevada, so high chance of that. I like that. I like conspiracy theories, and I like that one in particular. You got anything else prelim notable-wise for us, Tom?
Nope, that's it. That's to be honest with you, that's most of the prelims other than I think that's pretty much all of the prelims. That's all of them except for one. Jason Witt and Josh Kierian.
All right, well, you can forget about that one. So I'm going to let you kick off the main card. We've got Ariani Lipski versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is Tapology is really, really sided one way, and if I look up the odds here, I don't know if it's going to show me this early on. Keith, if you could here, I'm at the odds are minus 165 for Ariani Lipski. I think that these fighters are a little bit more close than Tapology would believe. 85% of the voters are on Ariani Lipski from Tapology. You know, when female fighters are attractive, sometimes they benefit from additional votes. And I think that could be skewing it a little bit because Cachoeira, she debuted against Valentina Shevchenko back in 2018. It was both of their debuts. She lost via rear naked choke. And, as you imagine, she absolutely got taken advantage of by Valentina. But she went on to lose to Meatball Molly McCann and Luana Carolina. And then actually got 2 KO wins over 2 people in the UFC who aren't fantastic. She had a rear naked choke loss to Jillian Robertson, and then beat Ji-Yeon Kim most recently. I think when she's in there, she throws crazy hooks. She's very finicky. She likes to move a lot, but in the later rounds is when she really started to fade. She likes to throw a lot of elbows and knees when she gets really tired. And that's really what won her the fight with Kim. So if this fight ends up going into the later rounds, I think it actually might start to lean toward Poliana Cachoeira, because she uses those elbows, she uses those knees, and she lands those heavier punches that in a 50-50 fight, especially later on, that's going to appeal to the judges, and that's going to make them think. However, Ariani Lipski does have pretty decent stand-up, and she showed pretty crafty Brazilian jiu-jitsu in her most recent fight, getting the knee bar victory. So I think she's very quick. She's got an aggressive top game. If she does get you down on the ground and she's in a top dominant position, she's going to rain down a lot of punches and a lot of elbows. So I think it's a little bit closer than Tapology would have you believe. I think the Vegas lines may get a little bit closer. I'm still going to go with Ariani Lipski. I think she's had the much better competition, and she's from a better MMA gym, from King's MMA. So, and Cachoeira's wins just really haven't aged all that well. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to go with Ariani Lipski, but definitely not what I would consider a lock.
Yeah, quick shout out to our boy Jared out there. Skids, he's been on the show as well in the past. Thank you. You are a GOAT as well, my friend. So I'm rolling with Ariani Lipski here, and plain and simple. I mean, you kind of said it yourself a little bit in there with your argument, but I think that Ariani Lipski is the better overall fighter. I think that she's, like you said, way more crafty when it comes to the stand-up game, and she is really starting to flex those jiu-jitsu muscles lately. She is starting to show us that she's got a deadly submission game if you land in her guard. So being that she can get it done from the top or the bottom, no innuendos there whatsoever, and she can do it while standing. Well, I guess all 3 of those could be considered innuendos. And Ariani Lipski, well, I'll leave it at that. If you know Ariani Lipski, she could get it done all 3 ways. But I like Ariani Lipski in this fight, and that's it. I think she's just a better overall fighter. So we're going to kick it up to Augusto Sakai versus Sergey Spivak. I'm taking Sergey Spivak in this one. I am a sort of a fan of Sergey Spivak. We saw what he did in his last fight against Greg Hardy. He really, was using a lot of judo, from hip tosses in there. Impressive work. It was against Greg Hardy, who, is no longer with the UFC, and I believe he just signed to the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Thank you very much. I like the glasses as well. So, yeah, we saw Greg Hardy. He made his departure from the UFC. But Sergey Spivak has fought some of the upper echelon of this heavyweight division in the UFC. And he's done decently well against them. He does have some losses, but his losses are to really good competition. Most recent loss was to Tom Aspinall, who, had it not been for 2 Saturdays ago, potentially could have beat Curtis Blades and would be in that title talk right now. Wins over Alexei Oleinik. Wins over Jared Vandera. The Alexei Oleinik one is impressive because they're both good grapplers. And, it wasn't like the most pretty fight to watch, but Sergey Spivak did get the job done very well. Tai Tuivasa, arm triangle choked him. So he's fought some of the guys that are really up there at the top of this division right now. And you look at Augusto Sakai, and he's really slipping. And he's on, a 4 or 3 fight losing streak at the moment. And he slips especially, or he fails especially, against grapplers. And Sergey Spivak, I think, is going to take him down early in this one, and control him on the ground, potentially just make it a long night for Augusto Sakai. And Augusto Sakai, who is very successful when it comes to striking, has still been losing on his feet. He lost to Biggie Boy, lost to Tai Tuivasa in his most recent fight by KO. KO in all three of his losses, I think. So maybe that chin is starting to go. So I think Sergey Spivak, good game plan for him going into this one, which he seems to like to do. He did this against Greg Hardy most recently. Get him up against the cage because Augusto Sakai is really bad up against the cage or on his back foot. And, control him and maybe try and do one of those hip tosses to Sakai. Ground and pound him out, maybe knock him out. And Sakai's submission defense isn't really that great either. So Sergey Spivak has a lot of paths to victory in this one. But mostly, by using his grappling. He can do it on his feet. He threw some really heavy strikes against Greg Hardy, and it looks like his striking is getting better. And there's a lot of power behind him, too. The polar bear, Sergey Spivak, he's a big boy. So I'm rolling with Spivak to get it done in this one against Augusto Sakai. What do you got, Tom?
Yeah, no, you hit it right on the head. That I think if Spivak is able to use his ground game and be aggressive from the top and land those elbows and those powerful punches, I think that he's definitely going to have a better chance to win than if he just goes in there and straight stands up with Sakai. I'm not going to deny and say that Spivak doesn't have an opportunity or a way to victory standing on the feet with Augusto Sakai, but I just think that the area in which of MMA that he has a far bigger a far bigger advantage is going to be on the ground. And we've seen Sakai, we've seen him lose to strikers like Jairzinho Rozenstruik and lose to strikers like Tai Tuivasa, who got exceptional power. But he also was taken down a couple of times in the middle of the second, in the middle of the third, fourth, and all of the fifth round by Alistair Overeem, who's inherently a kickboxer. So he was taken down, controlled, and beat up on the ground by Alistair Overeem. I would wonder what a guy like Sergey Spivak, who kind of specializes in that, imagine what he would be able to do on the ground to Augusto Sakai. That being said, Sergey Spivak, the question for him is that, of his competition. Yes, he got that loss to Tom Aspinall early in the first round, but his wins, you look at that, over Greg Hardy, who is now no longer in the UFC. He's got a win over Alexei Oleinik, which actually is telltale because that's a decision win, and he was able to avoid any submissions and get the victory over Alexei Oleinik. Also, keep in mind that Alexei Oleinik is 600 years old. So, it's hard to value that really, really high when you're talking about, competitions to be bouts to be proud of. He's got a win over Jared Van Der, in which he beat him up, and Carlos Felipe, who's not even in the UFC anymore. So his wins have not aged fantastic. So that's the only area that I would be a little bit concerned about for Sergey Spivak. But he's much more aggressive. He comes moving forward. Sakai can be very passive at times. So for all those reasons, I am agreeing with you. I'm going to go with Sergey Spivak here.
Smart man. I like the pick. We got to bring up, where's that little thing, that little super lock? Where's that at? Oh, I found it. Super lock on Sergey Spivak. All right, next up, kicking it on up to Juliana Miller versus Brogan Walker. This is one of the Ultimate Fighter, I believe, season 30 finales. Tournament, championship, whatever. I mean, nobody watched the Ultimate Fighter this season, but there was a nobody. But there was
on Psychology. It does say tournament. It does show like a little extra bracket thing. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that is dope. Tapology always killing it. They really take time to refine the small details and give you literally every single little aspect of information that you could possibly want to know about a fight before and after it happens. But this one, Juliana Miller versus Brogan Walker. So. Also, a quick shout out. I'm going to try and find this guy and, tag him in the description or let you know who he is on Twitter, because he put up a thread that said, I watched season 30 of The Ultimate Fighter, so you don't have to. Here are the highlights. And, so I was able to go back and watch Juliana Miller and Brogan Walker's previous fights. And I'm going with Brogan Walker in this one. She's faced a higher level of competition. She's got way cleaner of a striking game. She can really get it done on her feet, which I think she will against Juliana Miller. I think she's going to keep this fight standing and just abuse her when it comes to the kickboxing, because Juliana Miller is a grappler. She's really into the submission underground type stuff. But she only has 3 professional MMA fights. Being that Tough is considered an exhibition tournament, those don't add on to her record. But Brogan Walker has a lot of experience over there in Invicta. And if you know Invicta, you know that Invicta has produced some of the best women's fighters in the UFC. I believe Valentina Shevchenko was over there. Megan Anderson was there for quite a bit before she crossed over the UFC. there's been a lot of great female fighters that have come out of Invicta. Brogan Walker has the potential to be another one, and and another reason why she's going to keep it standing too is because Brogan Walker is also, she's got great takedown defense. Juliana Miller striking is very sloppy, and so if she does go for the takedown against Brogan's going to be able to defend it. She's got a really good guard, so she can defend submissions off of her back very well. Maybe even tie up one of her own. But for all those reasons, I'm going with Brogan Walker here. What do you got, Tom?
Yeah, this one, I'm going to have to go with Brogan Walker. And the reason for that is because she is actually, there's not as big of a height discrepancy as the UFC would have you believe. I think it has Juliana Miller listed at 5'7", Brogan Walker listed at 5'4". But I'm going to think Juliana Miller is much closer to 5'5" or 5'6". When they lined up at the end of Tough in the season finale, like there was only like maybe an inch separating them, and Brogan Walker is by far the more filled out. She's absolutely jacked. She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and Juliana Miller has actually lost, in her, she's 2-1, I think, so far officially. Her one loss is to somebody who wasn't actually a good grappler as well. And, in her grappling matches, when she gets to the upper echelon of the grapplers is when she begins to lose. She's still pretty young, and she's got that heart. Like, she's got, like, that kind of that dog into her. Like, when she was giving her interviews, I went back and I watched the last few episodes. When she was giving her interviews, she definitely had a lot of passion, a lot of fire, and a lot of drive, which definitely makes me think twice. Her initial fight in Tough was an absolute slugfest. They described it as, an epic 3-round battle is how it was described. Definitely, a lot of blood. This girl goes after it, and she goes after it hard. She doesn't stop moving forward no matter what. She's going to try and clinch you. She's going to do whatever she can to try and get it to the ground. The thing is going against Brogan Walker. I think Brogan Walker, being a jiu-jitsu black belt in her own right, not being that much smaller than Juliana Miller and being much stockier, I think she's going to have all of the facilities to be able to keep Juliana Miller off her. And then once it becomes a striking battle, that's where Brogan Walker is going to take advantage. So I'm going to kind of lean towards Brogan Walker to get the win. And then one other quick note, in her most in the fight to send her to the championship, Nunes was telling her to wrestle, you're better than this girl, wrestle, and she refused to wrestle and went out there and kept striking. So I think even when you have potentially the GOAT telling you to wrestle, she's going to keep it striking. She's not going to be baited into playing the jiu-jitsu game that Juliana Miller wants her to play. I think she's going to be able to keep her off her, and I really piece her up on the feet. What do you think?
I really like that. I actually didn't catch that when I was watching those fights because I had them on silent. I do not like listening to Juliana Pena and Amanda Nunes as coaches. But tight odds in this one, though. We got to make a note of that. -140 for Juliana Miller, +120 for Brogan Walker. So I'm curious, is Vegas now favoring, submission specialists and wrestlers and grapplers over people that like to purely strike? That is a big question. I wonder if they're kind of hopping on this. Wrestling and jiu-jitsu is yeah.
Listen, I went back and I watched Tough. I mean, it's entirely possible that Vegas didn't do that.
Interesting. With that much money on the line, I don't know, but
I mean, I'm obviously joking, but
yeah. Okay. I didn't see your face on there. I was looking at Tapology, but yeah, good point. Very funny joke. Sorry, I didn't laugh. I did not catch that. I was looking at the next fight that we're going to move on up to, which is Zach Pauga versus Mohammed Usman. And we've got your rule that we tend to follow. Tom is a man of rules and order, and his rules typically pay off. And so we've got Mohammed Usman, who is the brother of, you guessed it, Kamaru Usman, new star of the Black Panther franchise. Apparently he was just cast in the new Black Panther. So following in the footsteps of another welterweight goat, George St. Pierre, and joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But Zach Pauga is going to win this fight, and that's because Mohammed Usman is the sibling of a very successful fighter. So by following Tom's rules, Mohammed Usman cannot be good. He cannot be successful. But I did notice a lot of holes in this game, and in particular, when it comes to the ground game, and you have Kamaru, who was such a good wrestler before his knee injury a couple of years ago. But I don't know, maybe I'm speaking out of turn because I didn't watch The Ultimate Fighter. I won't be placing money on this one, but I like what Zach Pauga can do when it comes to landing takedowns. But I like his heavy hands as well. He does have a couple wins by knockout, and that was something I noticed was I went back and watched the knockout over Jordan Heidemann, and late in round 2, really solid TKO victory, and I think he has the heavier hands out of the two of these guys. Mohammed Usman, the vice president of EPO, that's a good one, Joe. I think Colby's probably gonna have a field day if Mohammed Usman loses. What do you think, Tom? Who are you rolling with in this one?
Yeah, Mohammed Usman definitely has the build of what you would expect Kamaru Usman's older brother to look like, or Kamaru Usman to look like at heavyweight. He can definitely take damage. He's fighting after losing his son, and when they showed him calling his family, they were saying like, "Hey, you know what you're here to do," and this and that, and it seemed very like hard. He has a lot of pressure on him, and whenever he talks about what he's there to do, like he gets very very emotional. I don't know if that's going to necessarily be a good thing. Is that going to drive him to be able to walk through punches and drive him towards success? Or is that going to be a lot of pressure that, when fighters, they have like their sons or their family come and watch them for the first time, sometimes that can overwhelm them. So definitely concerned about Usman in that regard, but you would think that, Kamaru Usman would be able to talk to him about that. I don't know. That's the interesting, weird dynamic about my siblings or spouse's rule. You would think that it would be an advantage, but I'm thinking that it just takes so much. I mean, listen, there's only so many skills in a particular gene pool. So even if your father is a pharmacist, you never know. That being said, Usman, kind of like his brother, grappler naturally. He can and will stand and bang. He throws in powerful bursts, but he hasn't knocked anybody out fairly recently. He only bursts about 1 to 2, maybe 3 times around, and that trails off as the fight goes on. He doesn't have great head movement, and he definitely gets hit a fair bit in his bouts. He leads his legs open to be kicked as well. He has decent speed, but like I said, doesn't have any KOs in tough. And when you look back at his opponents and where his opponents are now as compared to where they were when he fought them, gets really, really suspect. Not a lot of high-level competition, not any wins that particularly aged well. And on top of that, when he has a wrestling advantage, there's a lot of times where he doesn't use that wrestling, and maybe he should. Going over to Zach Pauga, he's fought pretty decent competition comparatively. He's learned MMA where he didn't have to learn wrestling and then adapt to striking. He basically learned MMA, so this is his main sport. He hasn't had to adapt another mixed martial art, or another martial art rather. He has really, really good slips, really good counters. His distance control is very good throughout tough. I think he did a really good job at slipping and landing one punch. Like it was almost like the game had slowed down for him, much beyond what you would think a fighter on tough would look like. He has a good ability to use his knees and kind of keep a high pace on his opponent. He has a very, very good lead hook, and he has very good patience despite pushing a very high pace on the opponent. All that being said, I think Puga should win this. Pauga. I think he should win this. He showed, great control of distance and pace in his fights on tough. He's shown an ability to put fight. I think he's going to work higher. I think he's going to hire him out. Ultimately, in the exchanges, I think Zach Pauga is going to land more as well. I don't know if Usman's going to be knocked out. He hasn't been thus point in his career, but also neither has Zach Pauga. And Pauga has shown his finishing ability at this level, whereas Usman hasn't. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Zach Pauga.
Yeah, I like the pick a lot. And yeah, the sibling rule is very accurate to this date. It really makes you wonder, like, how many strong swimmers could one guy have, and then not only are they strong, but then they come out strong and swinging and banging. So I think the rule certainly applies here. Mohammed Usman is probably going to lose. Vicente Luque versus Geoff Neal. That is the next fight we're moving on up to. And I'm hoping for a course correction for one of these men, Vicente Luque. He's got some really heavy hands, really great boxer. He's got honestly a decent submission game. Being that, when he gets into like some shitty situations, stuck in side control, he can lock up the dark choke pretty well, like he did against Michael Chiesa. But, we saw the last time around, Belal Muhammad it was boring. He wrestle fucked him. And I didn't see a single person online that enjoyed that fight at all. Belal Muhammad is the champion of boring. Herbert Burns is the epitome of Herbert Burns is the epitome of the sibling rule. Yes, sir. Herbert Burns, nowhere close to Gilbert. So much so that I almost forget that Gilbert has a brother. But yeah, Vicente Luque, really hope he can pick it back up in this one. Geoff Neal is, he's solid competition for Vicente Luque. These guys are two, pretty durable welterweights. We saw Geoff Neal had a nice battle against Santiago Ponzinibbio. Split decision victory for him over there. Santiago Ponzinibbio really likes to stand and bang. The fight against Neil Magny did just kind of outclass him. He's got really good kickboxing, not just the hands. Stephen Thompson, same story over there for Geoff Neal. But, biggest difference for Vicente Luque is that, Geoff Neal may be looking for a takedown, and he may say, like, I saw Bilal Muhammad wrestle fuck Vicente Luque the last time around. So let me try and do the same thing. But the difference is, like, Bilal Muhammad, for as boring as he is, he's actually a really good wrestler. And I don't think that Geoff Neal brings the same level of wrestling to the table that Bilal Muhammad does, despite Geoff Neal, I believe, having a victory over Bilal Muhammad. But that was before Bilal Muhammad decided to, just take this, like, boring approach. He did want to stand with guys for a little bit there. Like, you look at his fight against Leon Edwards before he cried blood. So Geoff Neal, though, I think he's not as good as Vicente Luque, and it's a course correction fight for Vicente Luque. They're here to be entertaining, these two guys. It'll be one where they're just swinging with each other, and Geoff Neal very durable, but I think Vicente Luque is going to have the better of the exchanges. Lands really solid combinations, switches up the body and the head work really well. So yeah, for all those reasons, Vicente Luque, that's who I'm going with. And if Geoff Neal's smart, I don't think he'll take Vicente Luque down, despite that maybe being his game plan from his coaches going in, because Vicente Luque does have, he's Brazilian. He does have the solid Brazilian jiu-jitsu game. Not that, like, being Brazilian inherently makes you good at jiu-jitsu, but we have seen him be able to lock up submissions, specifically that Darce choke against really good wrestlers. So, course correction. It's going to be a victory here for Vicente Luque, in my opinion. What do you got, Tom?
Yeah, for me, I think it's a perfect matchup for Vicente Luque, and I know exactly why he called made the call out to Geoff Neal, a couple fights ago, and why he was so willing to take this fight. Because, Geoff Neal is good at a lot of things, but the things that he's bad at, Vicente Luque is actually also really good at. So Geoff Neal, he's a boxing-heavy kickboxer. He's fast, and he uses his heavy right hand. He often throws the first shot, and he has very good combinations. Oh, sorry, he uses his left hand. Really good straight left hand. And he doesn't want to get into, you don't want to get into high, firefights with Geoff Neal, because he has very good combinations and head movement where he's eventually going to land on you the longer that combination goes. His biggest problems comes from fast strikers and top quality strikers at that. He's most susceptible to leg kicks and right hands. Subsequently enough, Vicente Luque, training with Henry Hoof, one of the best striking coaches, he has quick, hard leg kicks and always moving around and is very hard to hit. He's never in the same spot. He's got a sneaky counter. Guess what? Right hand. And he's also got a great chin. He has very good fight IQ and some sneaky good submission game to him. He's got 2 Darce chokes on his victory to Michael Chiesa and Tyron Woodley. So, you got to be careful, because he is that's not going to be his first area that he's going to go to, but he's definitely able to be dangerous from there as well. He's hard to take down, and even Bilal had a hard time fully getting him to the ground. They spent a lot of time up against the fence, and, Luque, there wasn't a lot of damage being dished out there. So, he's hard to get to the ground. I don't think that's going to be Neal's MO. I think we're going to see a standing battle here. I think it's going to be exciting, but I think Luque is going to beat him. I think his straight right is going to be susceptible to, Geoff Neal and getting through his guard. And I think his leg kicks are going to slow Neal down. And I think Vicente Luque has a really good shot of finishing here.
Yeah, I forgot about those nasty leg kicks from Luque. That's something I meant to bring up. But, that will eat away at Geoff Neal. A little bit heavier on that front leg from Geoff Neal. So I guess that would be another – hold on, here we go. Another super lock. Woo! Yeah, hooray. Got to make use of that nice fancy banner. So next up, main event, 5-round bout, Thiago Santos versus Jamahal Hill. And I am going with Mr. Hill to win this one. And that's because he's he's really taken the light heavyweight division by storm right now. He had that fight against Paul Craig where he did kind of beat the snot out of Paul Craig, but then had his arm turned into a floppy dead fish. But since then, Jamahal Hill he's tearing it up. He's just a 2-fight win streak since then. But against Johnny Walker, beating him by knockout in the first round, turned Johnny Walker into a meme very, very quickly. You may remember it. Slumped up against the cage. He had like the quadruple chin from just how like
ice cream face, melting ice cream face.
Yeah, the melted face. That's what it was. Oh God, disgusting. And then Jimmy Crute beating him by in the first round, later in the first round. Really solid knockout. Wins over OSP as well. OSP is not the guy that he used to be, but long story short, Jamahal Hill is a guy that came from Dana White's Contender Series. And out of all those fighters that have come up through the DWCS, hashtag in front, I think Jamahal Hill has the most potential to actually become a champion at some point in the UFC. He can do it all, but his striking in particular is very impressive. The nickname Sweet Dreams that Jamahal Hill walks around with, it applies to him. It's, right on the nose. Chef's kiss nickname, because he does have power in his hands to just put practically anyone to sleep. Jimmy Crute is a guy with a tough chin, and he put Jimmy Crute out. So Jamahal Hill, he's going to win this week, especially against a struggling Thiago Santos, who is now older. He's not the guy that he used to be. It's like that. Who's that? Kenny Chesney. I'm not as good as I once was.
But I'm as good as I'll ever be.
Yeah, I like that, but only the first line applies to Thiago Santos. I don't think he's going to be as good on Saturday as he'll ever be. I think it's just going to be another piss-poor performance for Thiago Santos. All love to him. He did give us some great fights in the past. But it's a similar scenario to when Jamahal Hill fought Johnny Walker. There's these guys that are, around in this light heavyweight division, and we're starting to see it with a lot of them. Anthony Smith is another guy. As much as you like him, there's a lot of light heavyweights that, because the division doesn't have crazy, it's not super stacked like a lot of other divisions out there. Quick shout out, James Salone. Good man. Thank you very much, James. How you doing? But yeah, because this division isn't super stacked through and through, there's not a lot of depth here. We see a lot of these guys that were once good in that John Jones era still sticking around, trying to do the thing. And then you have newer guys like the Yuri Prohashkas of the world and the Jamahal Hills of the world that are, tearing them all up out there in the light heavyweight division. So Jamahal Hill against another guy like Thiago Santos, who's a little bit older, a little bit weathered, not as good as he once was, and won't be as good as he ever was on Saturday night. So Jamahal Hill getting the victory. What do you think? Is this another super lock, Tom?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, and I can't even front about it. We haven't seen Thiago Santos of old in quite some time. He hasn't put anybody away. He's looked a lot more tentative. He had power and speed at one point in his career, but we haven't seen that for a few fights now. He just hasn't looked the same since John Jones. And, I guess that's to be expected to a certain degree from a certain point in even John Jones's career. So at Thiago Santos coming in at about 38 years old here, I'm not super thrilled on what he's bringing to the table. On the other hand, you have Jamahal Hill, who I am really excited about. He's a big striker. He has big power. He has accurate shots. He follows up well. He has good IQ. He's shown, the ability to put people away with submissions. He's shown the ability to, go out there and get it done. He's got a pretty good chin. He's got finishing ability. He punches heavy with Muay Thai and elbows and knees. He has really good striking IQ, like I said. If he stumbles you, he's going to finish and he's going to follow up, for the most part, unless you have the chin of, like Buzz Lightyear or something. So, I don't think Thiago Santos, in his aging, in advanced part of his career, I don't think we're going to have, the best chinned Thiago Santos of all time. So I think it's very probable that Jamahal Hill puts him away here.
Yeah, I like the pick to win by knockout. And, a lot of people were getting a little hot on Thiago Santos after that decision win over Johnny Walker. But even then, it wasn't a pretty fight. Johnny Walker, again, doesn't bring much to the table. Yeah, I mean, it's been since that John Jones fight that, it seems like he's really fallen a step behind. So yeah, it's going to be a victory for Jamahal Hill, and that means this has been another, got to make use of it, super lock. All right, so we are going to slide into our pick rundown now, because that was the main event. 5 rounds, probably going to last maybe 1 or 2 because of the hands that Jamahal Hill has. Going to start with the rundown now. So, for my prelim lock notables, I am going to tail the 2 women's fight parlay. That's Bueno Silva versus Edgar and McKenna versus Ranger, both to go the distance. I am taking Ryan Battle over Takashi Sato. Obviously, Terrence McKinney over Eric Gonzalez. Lock of the century. Not a lot of money to be made there, though. Lock it in now before it gets higher than minus 900. And then I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit on Sam Alvey. But, Tom, you got to make note of this now. This does not count towards my record. This is literally just based on chance, nothing else.
Hey,
so,
listen, it's came up black 6 times in a row. It's got to come up red at some point, right? Like, I know maybe statistically that may not be right. It's a 50-50 chance, but not coin flip. It's fighting, and I feel like Sam Alvey's just waiting to get that last win. And, he is a tough guy, so I don't hate throwing the money on the plus 400 guy. I wouldn't want to count against my record. That's just almost like playing the scratch offs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
$1.2 billion, and some lucky guy in Illinois got it. Wish that was me. From the pick rundown, I got the first 2 female fights on the card. I got them both going to decision. I got Brian Battle over Takashi Sato. Of course, I'm doing Terrence T-Rex McKinney over Eric Gonzalez. Like we said, sprinkling a little bit on Sam Alvey, not an official pick though. Moving to the main card, I got Ariani Lipski over Cachoeira. I like Sergey Spivak to use his grappling and beat Augusto Sakai, hopefully. I think Brogan Walker is going to be too strong for Juliana Miller and too experienced for her to out-grapple, and I think the feet are going to take over. I think Zach Pauga is going to definitely be able to outclass Mohammed Usman on the feet. We're going to be interested to see if Mohammed Usman actually takes him down and uses his wrestling, but I don't think Pauga is going to let him. Vicente Luque is going to make quick and painful work of Geoff Neal on the feet. Unfortunately, he's got very good. Unfortunately for Geoff Neal, Vicente Luque is very good at what Geoff Neal is not very great at. And I think we're going to see Jamahal Hill take another victim and get a win over Thiago Santos by finish.
Yeah, so I'm going to run down my main card ones real quick. So I've got Ariani Lipski, I've got Sergey Spivak, Zach Pauga, not sure how you say it because I watched Tough on mute. Then I've got Vicente Luque and Jamahal Hill. Lots of super locks coming up here. We've got a new comment. Let's see who it was. Joe Aliota, little guest pick here. Spivak, Luque, Hill parlay. Thanks for the content. Well, thanks for tuning in, and thank you to everybody else who stuck around till the end of the episode here. Please make sure, as always, that you like the video, subscribe. Thank you to everybody that left us comments down below. That really helps our engagement. Appreciate it a lot. And Tom, thank you for joining me as well. As always, another fun episode. Going to be a fun card. Really looking forward to that main event.